Susan, are you at Mayday Books?
I am at Mayday Books.
Oh, I recognize that background.
Yeah, I was going to show, here are the books we sell from the people who spoke there.
Excellent.
Yes. Uh, so for those who don't know Mayday Books, we're in Minneapolis, and we're an all-volunteer nonprofit bookstore. We always sell our books at discount. And our slogan is not making a profit since 1975. So,
Wow.
yeah. All right. Well, welcome all of you to Women Against Military Madness's section of Peacestock. And we have here several members of WAMM, and we kind of wanted to talk about is, and it's interesting given the speakers we had today, is how we continue to be active for what now is 37 years, I think. What you could say about that is we really suck at ending wars. The Chinese do it so long. But we kind of like to think that we're adapting and learning and having effects on the world. And some of the things that we fought for years are we've changed some of the culture around us, fighting for gay rights, fighting for understanding of Native rights, fighting against police brutality. These are all things that are coming to the fore now. And it's because a lot of us have been doing a lot of work for a long time. I think these things don't change easily, but they change because individual people in the world make the efforts make a difference. So that's kind of what we want to talk about. WAMM, one of the benefits of having a long-time organization is you do have an office and we do have a staff. And right now we have 1.5 staff members. That means we can be a place where people can call with questions, people can store all their equipment, the people, we have a long time email mailing list. We also have a really well-written newsletter that comes out every 2 months. We have the opportunity to sort of swivel the minute something happens. I know last year when George Floyd was murdered by Minneapolis police, we were some of the biggest groups on the ground, walking the streets, making a difference, helping people to get their voices heard. So we're really proud of that ability to mobilize, to work together, to respect each other, and continue to make the world a better place. On our, let's see if I can get this open, about our issues committee, and that's kind of the way we work, is that we all have issues. I know one of the things we talked about today is we need to get together and understand the economic system, but I think we actually do talk a lot about that in WAMM, but people have different ways they want to work in the activist world. So we have a book club, we have the End War Committee, we have End Domestic Militarism. This actually is a new committee that happened when they brought tanks into the streets of Minneapolis and started firing on people. End Military Madness Against the Earth, Middle East Committee, Movie Committee, St. Joan of Arc, WAMM Peacemakers, Solidarity Committee of the Americas, and Tackling Torture at the top. And that actually, the last one, Colleen Rowley, who you heard earlier, is the chair of that one and deals with torture around the world. And what I'm going to ask now is for Bill and Mary to talk a little bit about the two committees they're in on and what kind of activities you're focusing on and how you work together. Want to go ahead?
Okay. See here. You're gonna give us back the main screen here.
Yeah, blood.
Let's see here.
Yeah, she
Can't find my toolbox. Oh, this is embarrassing.
But way up at the top, Kristen,
Yeah.
green, something that says stop
Oh,
sharing.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Stop share. Big red button.
There we go.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Hi. Mary Slovig, Bill Adamski here. Both of us are active members of the End War Committee. And additionally, I'm in the St. Joan of Arc WAMM Peacemakers. We'll start off by giving a quick overview of what's happening in the End War Committee. We've been very active even with the pandemic. We've had regular monthly meetings, and we've even launched a new campaign. I will talk about just the main activities that are keeping us busy these days in the End War Committee. First of all, we have End War has had an ongoing campaign that's going on 5 years now. It's the campaign to abolish nuclear weapons, and much of that currently we're just on hold. A lot of that involves meeting people in person, petition and postcards, actions. The ultimate goal of the committee campaign to abolish nuclear weapons is to pressure our congressional delegation, the Minnesota congressional delegation, to support abolishing nuclear weapons, and in particular, support the UN Treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons. We've done a bunch of things. We've surveyed, thanks mostly to Steve McCown, but others involved, of collecting petition signatures and signed postcards, put pressure on our elected representatives, both House and Senate in Congress. And but right now we're stepping aside from all of this day-to-day stuff on our campaign to commit to the upcoming enter into force day, January 22nd, for when the UN Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons takes weight as international law. And for that, Mary will lists many of the activities that the WAMM End War Committee is involved with over the next week or so.
So this for us is very exciting that over 50 nations from around the world have ratified this treaty. So now it officially enters into force as international law. And the International Committee to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, ICAN, has been publishing the events that are happening around the world. And so WAMM is thrilled to be a part of a much, much larger action celebration of the fact that now there's this weight of law. And we're hoping we can use that to pressure our legislators to sign on and end some of this military madness. So one of the big ones we are doing in connection with Nuke Watch out of Wisconsin, and that will be to present the treaty to Honeywell headquarters. They make components for the Trident nuclear missiles, and that will be happening at noon this Friday. Another activity that we're doing is
Just note that the action will be in Plymouth,
Minnesota.
Yes.
Which is where Honeywell's headquarters are. And Vets for Peace is also a sponsor of this action, and Alliant Tech. And then Vets for Peace is also joining with WAMM in co-sponsoring a food not nuclear weapons drive. And so at the WAMM office at 4200 Cedar Avenue in Minneapolis, we are collecting food items between January 18th to the 21st and those will all go to the Minnehaha Food Shelf. We are also going to have a nuclear weapons watch party on Friday, January 2nd from 7 to 9 p.m. We're encouraging the WAMM members to join the Pittsburgh chapter of the peace group Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, also known as WILF. And you can contact WAMM to get information about the link that would allow you to join in this watch party. And then we're working with 10 city councils across the state of Minnesota to get them to pass the Back from the Brink resolution to support the prohibition, the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. And one more event we're going to have is a Zoom meeting with Dorothy Van Soest. She has written a book called Nuclear Option. That's going to happen Monday, January 25th at 7 p.m. And again, you can contact WAMM to get the Zoom link for her talk that'll be coming on Monday, January 25th at 7 p.m. Dorothy collaborated on a booklet much earlier in her career called Empowerment of People for Peace to help WAMM members become nuclear and pro-justice activists. And her recent novel is really about confronting the nuclear weapons industry. We are also going to be sending letters to the editor about this entry into force day, and we really hope we can get an article published in one of our local Twin Cities papers. And then we're also asking churches that we have relationships with locally to join us in these activities. I'm currently in contact right now with St. Joan of Arc to ring their bells on Friday, January 22nd, as a celebration of this entry into force. So lots going on, and we'd love to have more people join us in our actions. All right, Bill, you want to talk about the rest of what the End War community is doing?
And so let me just link finally between our campaign to the WAMM End War campaign that's been going on for 5 years on abolishing nuclear weapons with the EIF Day that the UN treaty will take the weight of international law. And we'll be using that in our updated abolition campaign to exert further pressure on our Minnesota delegation in Congress that we're now dealing with a treaty that has the weight of international law. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, even in this pandemic, we in the End War Committee have had the brazenness of even starting a new campaign, and it is WAMM campaign to fund human needs, not war. The United States government, using our taxpayer dollars, we've done some calculations, estimates from the 2021 budget, the currently in effect budget, and the discretionary programs that deal with war and security cost over $1 trillion. It's this, you hear the $740 billion. That's just for the Pentagon. There's other externalities there that don't come into that direct. And anyway, that comprises over 60% of the U.S. federal government's discretionary budget. Just an obscene amount.
Yeah.
And the thing is that this money, this being wasted, our taxpayer money, doesn't do anything to stop the coronavirus or protect, give us better health care, housing, food security, etc., clean water, environment. And so we have developed an initial list that's subject to revisions on campaign strategies, working with peace groups, reaching out to elected officials, using the WAMM newsletter and action alerts, distribute written materials on the obscene amount of money being wasted on war. using social media and provide forums and other educational events, which probably now in our age of Zoom would include virtual meetings. We have, the campaign also has a list of preliminary short and long-term goals, but I won't go into that, those measures at this time. It's just too much to play around with. So that's happening now. We also, always the End War Committee is the lead group on conducting the peace vigils at the Lake Bridge in Minneapolis, bridging the Mississippi River. We conduct those every Wednesday. We got a spirited group of volunteers who protest war and advocate for peace. And we change the themes on our signs as need be, considering what's coming up in the news. I think we might be taking a spin on encouraging in our signs to encourage Biden as his presidency takes hold to
Embrace peace.
Yes, our campaign for funding, not war. So that's it. And war committee. Oh, and then finally, let me just again, I'm also with the St. Joan of Arc WAMM Peacemakers Committee. Our group has been mostly suspended in terms of actions. We have had 3 Zoom meetings, and we are haven't scheduled a next one yet. But stay tuned. That's it. That's it for us.
Thank you, Bill and Mary, for that explanation. 2 things I want to mention about that are kind of neat about WAMM. The collaboration we did with Vets for Peace about signing these petitions. 2 people from Vets for Peace, and they have a nice van that they've outfitted with Vets for Peace signs all around it, drove to every village, town, and city in Minnesota to get signatures and managed to get every single one of them. It's an outrageous number of people, had over 20. Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, there was, yeah, Steve was keeping track. He's got his map with the stick pins. Over 800 incorporated municipalities and several others that are not incorporated.
So it was a really grassroots, on the ground event, and I'm really proud of all that work. The other thing is that the vigil over the bridge has now been going on for over 20 years, and it was inspired by people in Yugoslavia who the US was bombing their bridges, and in order to put a stop to it, everyday citizens from the cities that were being bombed moved onto the bridges and stayed there 24/7 to try and prevent the bombings. And WAMM was inspired by that, and that was what sent us out to do vigils on one of our main bridges and to call out to the similarities that we were in an international occupation of the bridges to oppose war. And that's kind of the creative ideas that you get from people working together and supporting each other and coming up with new ways to interact. And I'm really proud of WAMM for doing that kind of things. Let me see who we've got here. Kim, are you ready? Or I don't know, Sue Ann, did you want to talk at all? Or
I'm ready if no one else is.
okay, go ahead, Kim.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Kim DeFranco. I've been a part of WAMM for a few years now, many years. And we just started a relatively new committee called, I want to get it right, the Solidarity Committee on the Americas. We kind of noticed that there's a resource center and some other groupings that kind of dealt with countries in the Americas, but we decided that we needed to reform a committee to help get that information out to people, because there's lots of things going on in the Americas. And when you go to the WAMM page and look up our committee, it gives a nice description, which I'll just read, and all the events and items that we're doing and going to be doing in the near future. But we want to educate the role of the U.S. foreign policy in the military and economic oppression and intervention throughout Latin America and the Caribbean. We're an action-oriented grouping focusing on challenging the U.S. imagic policies in the region and supporting the right of self-determination for all. And we do these by organizing like coffee hours. That used to be the resource of the Americas, I believe, if I'm remembering it correctly, used to have that. So we thought it was important to bring that back. And we've done many coffee hours focusing on different countries or the regions. And all of those have links on our committee page on the WAMM website. So those have been really successful, and it's been really informative because there's so much going on in each country. It's just kind of hard to keep up with all of it. And then we participated in different webinars, kind of like one of our main campaigns, especially during the pandemic, is to get not only the state of Minnesota, but the U.S. government to work more closely with Cuba. Cuba, as we all know, has is more high up and developed than our healthcare system. And they've been known to send doctors throughout the world to help in times of crisis and in times of natural disasters. And they've been working on what they call, not remedies, treatments, and I believe they're still kind of working on a vaccine. And then the way they have their society set up and the people's relationship to the government, they've been able to they're still affected by the pandemic, but not as horrible as our country has been, because they really do contact tracing, and they do like kind of stop it when they see any kind of wave that's going up. And some people here in America may think it's horrible when you get infected, you're sent to a hospital, but it's actually good because you're quarantining yourself from your community and you're able to get treatment. And so far, I think there might be some updated numbers, but they've only really experienced like 5 deaths. Can you imagine if the president would have done what Cuba does, we would have saved a lot more lives, but you know how that goes. And it's just ridiculous. It's a world pandemic, and instead of blaming countries or isolating countries because they don't hold up America on a pedestal. And with the history of Cuba, they really could have been a life-saving force, especially on Native American lands here in the U.S. and many communities of color. So it's just a terrible thing. I mean, even if it was a Democratic president, I don't think it would have been a worse response, but they still wouldn't have allowed the doctors to come in. So that's kind of our main campaign. Last year, we had Senator Sandy Pappas introduce a resolution to it was at the end, so we only got it introduced, but it got introduced. It had some signers, and then to not only work with the doctors in Cuba, but end the blockade would be also a part of that too, for the state of Minnesota to be more of an active role in collaboration. And she wrote a letter to the governor and got a few more politician signers on it. And it made Cuba news. They were just delighted that someone in America is actually having a resolution that actually, well, they thought it passed. We had to make sure we only told them it was introduced, but being introduced, it's a huge effort. So they were just over the moon. And so that helped kind of make connections that way too. We're planning to do the same thing this year. So now that we're starting at the beginning, hopefully it'll actually pass and get more movement. And on top of that, there's also city councils that we're trying to get a resolution passed too. St. Paul, St. Paul and Minneapolis are the first two big ones, but we're kind of hoping to spread it out as things go on. But the other encouraging thing is that a lot of cities in their city council have either passed or working on passing the same types of resolutions. So it is taking off. On one sad note, it's not taking off fast enough, and it would have been a lot better to do it in the beginning of it. But we're still having health crisis in America, so it's definitely pushing forward. So that's really exciting. We have Osterholm, the professor from the University of Minnesota, that's on Biden's new task force. So that's actually another bonus for us here in the state of Minnesota. And so we've had webinars about that too. So it seems like our newly formed committee is really doing a lot of groundwork, trying to get people educated and kind of moving forward on other types of campaigns. So, and we've had Senator Pappas actually speak at one of the webinars too, and those links can also be found on the page. So it is, if you want to learn more about what the Cubans are doing to fight this pandemic, I encourage you all to go and see those links. And and so they'll be up. There's an upcoming coffee hour on Haiti at the end of January 30th. So that would also be a good webinar to go to. So there's lots of things going on. So I think I will cut it off there to make sure I have gotten any of this, or if I'm missing something huge. Nope, but there's lots of information on the webpage. So I will pass it off. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. I want to mention a couple of other things that I mentioned slightly before. We do put out a newsletter. This is our most recent one. And this has got quite a few people get this, and you can get this if you become a member or if you just basically ask. This comes out every 2 months. Here's the one before it. And we have some really excellent work there. For instance, this article is by Bruce Gagnon, who many of you may know is not from Minneapolis, but has agreed to put articles in our newsletter. And we love getting contributions like that. Another thing that we do every year is this card. And I'm sorry, I have a shaky hand, so I'm not doing a really good job. And it's has to do with what Bill was talking about, the discretionary spending that's spent on the military, and some alternatives if you could, what you could pay for if you weren't paying for all that military. And this is really popular. You can buy these for $50 for $5. I mean, $100 for $5, and we'll send them to you. And you can drop these in various places. We also drop our newsletter locally in coffee shops and co-ops and other places like that. I want to see what are some of the other committees that are not here representing themselves, so that you can know about it. We have a book club committee. We have a Middle East committee that focuses on Middle East work. One of the members was going to be here, but she's not here. So I'll tell a little bit about that. We've been doing a lot of work to support the Palestinians. We have a vigil for Palestinians every Friday afternoon on a main intersection in St. Paul. They also have been calling for a boycott on Pillsbury because General Mills headquarters is here, and Pillsbury has opened a company on Palestinian land illegally, and we're asking them to shut it down. And we attended their annual meeting here and brought the question up, and they said they'd get to it sometime. And we're trying to focus on the rights of Palestinians And although WAMM as a 501c3 cannot actually participate in politics, we do support the, where Minnesota has a law that says you can't say anything bad about Israel. We're trying to kill that gag rule. And we also support those who work on BDS work in Palestine. That is one thing I should mention. We are a 501c organization. That limits how much we can do. We can't support particular candidates. So, of course, we did not support either Biden or Trump, though I can bet you'd guess some of the, who most of our members supported, although a lot of us supported third-party candidates. And we continue to do that, but we don't participate in that kind of political work. Does anybody have any questions, or Kim or Bill or Mary want to add a little bit?
I think you
Hi.
covered it.
Okay, Marie?
Yeah, hi. This is the first time I have learned of this group, was at the Peacestock event today. So I'm just learning and wondering and listening. And is your objective or mission about doing away with the military?
Yes, absolutely.
Are there any countries that do that?
Well, I think Vets for Peace would do the same thing. And I'm glad you got to us through them. It's definitely, we work on various parts of militarism. And I think that's why we're kind of flexible about that too, because the End Domestic Militarism is a new committee dealing with Trump's use of federal governmental troops in the streets of the United States. We also, in the past, had and have not done anything lately, worked a lot to stop ROTC and the recruitment of high school and junior high school students. We kind of try and be flexible out there, but the whole focus is, yes, to end military madness. It gives us a great acronym too. WAMM is kind of enjoyed by the people who hear about us. The first time they hear about it, they think, yeah, that's a good acronym. Yeah.
I am a member of Veterans for Peace, and I live in Oregon. And I just, we discussed the Peacestock that was coming up at our meeting last week. So that's how I got here. I'm probably the only one from our chapter here.
Excellent.
But I just wanted to understand that you say military madness, but I mean, I'm wondering, to do away with the military completely, do we have any other countries that are doing that we're following? Or how do we, I don't know, it brings up a whole new set of questions, I guess, for me.
It does. There is one country I know of that has gotten rid of its military, and that is Costa Rica. Actually, well, by law, they cannot have a military. However, they do rely very heavily on U.S. troops to help them when they get into situations that would benefit from military, would benefit corporations if militaries got involved. So they've got kind of an opt-out there.
Right, and who's going to take care of us if we don't have a military?
Right. So
I'd like to learn more. I mean, I'm definitely interested, and I did serve in the Navy, and I went in at 17. So yes, I was the, you know, both my parents were in the military. So I would like to learn more, and I'm not sure even where to start, other than I know enough to join Veterans for Peace.
Em, you wanted to say something?
Well, I think so our definition of military, as we would see it, as the government's definition. I mean, the government's definition of military is mainly going over to other countries to invade. I think our vision of our own, like, people, as we would call it, a people's army, would be more, I mean, and it's an interesting question. I mean, there are some countries that have more of that people's army outlook. Venezuela is one of them, where they're going to defend invaders from trying to overthrow their democratically elected leader. And for and I would also even put in North Korea's army and Cuban army. So there are other countries out there that they see themselves more as like the people's army to make sure like there's no invaders. That's kind of like in my perception. So I'm not an expert on any of this, but just from the campaigns I've been on and hearing stories and people's report backs, that's what I see. Like the FMLN in El Salvador and the Sandinistas in Nicaragua. So there's definitely histories of that. So I think part of finding the information would probably have to go into like a search of history. So, but Vets for Peace would be a great resource for that, I'm sure.
And I'm thinking of Japan. I'm not sure that Japan is out ever since World War II.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We're not so actively out there. I mean, defending, but not in a way that we do, certainly.
That's a good point.
I think Japan's constitution has something about not getting involved in war.
I believe so. I believe so. Yeah.
I was just wondering, I just went to the website, the WAMM website, and I was trying to find how to get onto the webinar you talked about on January 30th, the coffee hour. I couldn't really find, I mean, I see some links there to other coffee hours from last year. Do I have to call that phone number to get the link?
Well, I think we're in the process of setting it up. So if you join on the contact, go ahead, Kristen.
Yeah, sorry. If you go under the committees heading and go to the SCOTA committee, which is Solidarity Committee.
Nope, I can put the link in the chat to make it easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay.
SCOTA.
If you scroll down on that page, I think there are some videos on there. Maybe we haven't got them all loaded up. We also should have most of them on our Facebook page and on our YouTube page, which you can find a link at the bottom of every page. It's that little red with the arrow button will take you to our YouTube page.
And I'll put in some links in the chat too, so people can have it. I think the link for January 30th will be coming up soon. We're just kind of getting all the details ready. So that should be happening, but let me see if someone actually made an event for it.
I don't think we've gotten that info yet.
Okay, yep, it's in the process. So if you like our pages, then you will definitely get the information if you're on Facebook and from our website.
Okay.
And I'm sure all of you are getting used to, just like us, we had to get used to Zoom, used to not meeting each other. And we're all learning every day. Yesterday, I learned 2 new things on Zoom, that are like just basic. One of the problems we do have, we have a majority of people over 50, I think, at least. We have some of our founding member just celebrated our 101st birthday last November. Yeah. So we're not as tech savvy as maybe some younger groups are. But we do try and get our way through. And I think one of the things that we're missing out, as you mentioned, Brian, is that we're not getting our links off the place they should be, but we'll work on it and try, because there is an enormous amount of knowledge that we get. And now that we're on Zoom, we're able to talk to people all over the world. So it's really fun. Anyone else?
That's it. I think everybody's learning how to navigate some of the stuff. This new environment.
What kind of work do you do, Brian?
I'm actually in school. I'm trying to finish up a certificate program in addictions counseling.
Wow.
I was in the Army for 4 years. 2000 to 2004. And I sort of did one tour in Iraq
Wow.
as a cavalry scout.
That's on the ground work.
Yeah, I kind of wasn't serving in that capacity in Iraq. I moved over into support platoon and then over into headquarters platoon. So I didn't actually have to do scouting work, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah.
Because that was what I've heard was much harder. I mean, more traumatic.
Well, it sounds like you're doing service. What was the thing I saw somebody in the chat said when he's a vet, and when he gets told thank you for your service, he said, my service began after I left the service and started serving the people. So it was pretty cool. Anyone else?
Hope to come visit your bookstore one of these days. Are you in Red Wing or
We're in
somewhere else?
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis?
Yeah. And I
I
don't
heard you.
Go ahead. I don't know if the rest of you heard that. I also we have this wonderful resource in Minneapolis called Mayday Books, which is all volunteer and nonprofit. And we have discounts on all our books. And our slogan is not making a profit since 1975. So we'll keep that up. Yeah. Yeah, we'd love to have you come. We don't actually do any out-of-state work, and we don't deliver books. One of the things is we don't want to deal with credit companies, and that makes it hard. But anytime you're in Minnesota, please stop by.
I sure will. Thank you.
And WAMM actually works if you're here at an office on 42nd and Cedar, which is in South Minneapolis. And that is an office that also serves as the home to the Anti-War Committee, Veterans for Peace, Minnesota Immigrant Rights Action Committee, local ASME union, the Green Party. Trying to think, do I miss anybody?
United Against Police Brutality.
Communities United. And this was a building bought by a friend of the movement after one of our local churches burned down. It had been home to many great groups. And so he bought what used to be the Danish Community Center. And we're all there now. And this is another thing, I think, being a longtime organization and working together with other groups, that we can collect our forces and join together. We all support each other through that organization, that actual building. And people know to go there if anything happens. They know, I can call there, I can go there. And that's how we were able to react so strongly to especially the George Floyd events and other activities that affect our community as well as the nation.
And it's got a great meeting space too, or dining. Well, it used to be the dining hall, but now it's a meeting room. So it can hold up to a couple hundred people. And there was plenty of forums and events there too. So it's quite the great activist community center.
Wow, sounds good. I can't wait to visit.
Yep, come on up. We'll put you up. I don't know if anybody saw, I thought Colleen, Colleen is head of one of our committees, the Colleen you heard speak during the main part. She put up a bunch of jokes, but one of them that I mentioned was the idea that Antifa or BLM were leading the insurrection on the 6th. They said, oh, come on. If they were leading it, we'd have a soup kitchen, we'd have a medic tent, we'd have people handing out masks, we'd have people handing out hand warmers. You gotta see. And that's something that has also impressed me about I think, I remember one of the first events on George Floyd was at the University of Minnesota that was led by one of the Students for a Democratic Society. And they had on the massive mall in front of the, one of the big, on the lawn in front of U of M, they had very carefully put tape marks down 6 feet away all the way across that mall, and people were standing 6 feet away from each other. All these young people. And I thought, where are the rebels? Where are the, and I thought, no, they are the rebels. They are the ones being responsible. They are the ones that, listen and try and help each other. And it was really a brand new thing. I've been in the movement for a long time, but I've never seen anybody so spontaneously and, all of them work to try and keep each other safe. So it's a real I think it's a huge difference between what we saw last week and what we see in our movement now. So very thankful for that. I think we're about 10 minutes after, so I'm going to close it out if that's okay with you. Was that another question?
No, I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you all for visiting, and come by Minneapolis. You're very welcome, and we'll give you a good time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.